Alright everybody, so welcome to my series of Would I Buy. It's basically a series where I try out a bunch of demos of games that I would not have normally looked into. I have not looked into a lot of these games at all, and I basically just give off my impressions and I just decide myself, would I actually buy it myself? And all I can say is when I went into this game, when I heard about it, I'd just seen it. And you can tell it has that sort of Square Enix look on it. And I kind of just put it down to that it was just going to be sort of a generic RPG. And then I looked into it, downloaded it, and I actually found out that it was not a traditional JRPG or anything at all. What it actually was, well, basically, when I first actually started playing it, and I actually realised it was a simple strategy. It was a real-time strategy game. I was able to start clicking on the enemies and group attacking it, and I actually started to realise, oh, maybe this is more like Command and Conquer. Is it like Command and Conquer where I take control, or Commandos or something like that, like Desperados, where I actually select an attack? And then the more I actually got into the game itself, it is kind of like a traditional, like turn-based, grid-based, like the grid-based strategy games where you select your grid, you go around the sides and you can flank enemies. It's basically like that, but with more of a real-time strategy twist. So basically, yeah, a cross between a turn grid-based strategy game and real-time strategy, and I really liked that. I have not experienced many games which actually do that, and I'm not saying that it's never been done before. It probably has been done loads of times, but it's not often that I see that kind of gameplay, and it was kind of actually fun to play when I actually got into it. I mean, when it came to getting used to the controls and the mechanics, it did actually take me a bit to get used to it all. I mean, obviously you can press your left trigger, which basically selects your whole group. You select and your whole group attacks an enemy. Similar to like how if you were to select a group of commandos in Command and Conquer, or a whole group of enemies and they all start attacking that enemy. Obviously it was a bit strange when it came to actually getting used to selecting a specific character, but then I actually kind of realised I kind of got used to just literally pressing the X button, which kind of froze time, and essentially I was able to then switch between the character that I wanted to select, and then I could either press the Y button to both move and attack enemies, like click on an enemy, or likewise I could select a group of special attacks from that drop down menu, and that basically became a lot easier to get the hang of. So basically it was a matter of every time I saw something, I basically would press X, brought up the menu, and I select either I wanted all the enemies to attack a specific enemy, or I was able to select the character I want. I pressed Y to move them to a certain area, and then I would press the X button again, which basically it's remained on that character. Then I just used a special attack, which made it a lot easier to get into a bit of a strategy of moving my character around to the side, because there is obviously sort of like the flanking thing that you'd expect from a grid-based strategy game, and I kind of liked that. Now, obviously, there were other things that I had to get used to throughout the course of the demo, and that was basically getting used to enemies' special attacks. Because at first, it was getting used to seeing the red, like it has a red area that highlights where the area of attack is going to be, and that gave you enough time to basically, you can move all your characters, or basically, as I say, I hit up the X button again, and likewise selected the character, because certain characters do have the ability to stun the enemy. So I would literally, as soon as I see the red mark, I would select the character that has the stun ability, and I just quickly either move them to an area closer to that enemy, and then press the X button again to basically stun the enemy and use that special attack. And I kind of got into a rhythm. I got really into it. I also actually was happy to realize that you can actually speed up the game as well to basically a ×2 speed. Now, obviously, you had to get used to really seeing the red lines there because that bar filled up rather quickly. But after a bit, I kind of got used to it, and like I say, once you hit that X button anyway, it freezes time anyway, so you get time to think, and that was good. What were other issues that I had? I mean, for example, when it came to wanting to heal a specific character, because you had characters that you can basically heals all your enemies in a certain area. When I say enemies, heal all your allies in a certain range, but you could also like get them to heal a specific character as well, and that came a bit of a confusing thing because when you hit up the ability, it didn't clearly state which character you were highlighting. It showed it on the screen, but essentially when it came to switching the character, I couldn't really tell which character at first was being highlighted. But then actually I got used to it. You look a bit more closely, it does have a blue highlight around the character that you're selecting. So basically, if I wanted to heal the person with the lowest health, I just basically switched between characters using the bumper buttons, and basically look for that blue highlighter around the character with the least amount of health. So I got a bit more used to that, and likewise when it came to selecting an enemy I wish to attack, you just get used. You can do it with the left thumbstick, but I find it just didn't really work. But if you switched between the trigger, like the bumpers, that worked a lot better, and it made it feel a lot more smoother, and I really got into it there. So that's obviously the controls itself. When it came to the story, it was pretty much your... Ooh. My thing's flicking and making noises at me. So yeah, as for the story itself, it was pretty much just standard affair. It just started talking about war, and you meet up with a group of people, and it took you to the home base. And I think it was pretty much the home base. And I have a feeling a lot of the game will just take place. I suppose, although it allowed you to run around the area, it kind of just felt like a window dressing for basically in other games where you just select your room and that's it. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. In fact, I thought it was a good thing, to be honest, because it was kind of nice to be able to run between locations in it, rather than just say, I want to go to this room and selecting where it's all text-based. I mean, selecting the mission itself, it does bring up a menu, and you select your next mission. It goes through a basic report of what the mission is, and you do that. And then you're on your way to the next mission. I kind of just thought of each area as like a little dungeon, and thought you've got your hub world, it's like a JRPG, and then you take on your quests, you go to a dungeon, and you work your way through it. I mean, the characters, I liked the characters. They seemed like rather interesting. The overall story, I'm not the biggest fan of those type of generic war stories and, factions and just taking over. I didn't particularly find that the most interesting. But obviously, the characters themselves, I quite liked. I did enjoy the characters, and I would continue playing to sort of see their relationships just in general. I'm not particularly bothered at all about the actual overarching story or anything like that, but yeah, the characters themselves seemed rather interesting. In terms of the actual progression of the game, progression is fun. Obviously, it's like a traditional JRPG. You go, you do a mission, at the end of the mission you gain your rewards, you gain your experience points, which level up all your characters. And there is actually an additional incentive to go back, because you have the additional challenges where you can, as I say, you can beat the mission in a certain time limit, or beat the mission without losing any of your allies or anything like that. And obviously every time you replay the mission, even if you don't do it, you still get your experience points, and likewise if you do complete the missions, you get special lack ability points, which actually also help to go to your character progression. Like, as I say, it seems like each character or something of the likes, they have like specific skill trees that you can invest your skill points into, and I do like that kind of progression, and it kind of delves into that whole building new abilities and things like that. And likewise, your money you can use to purchase the new equipment, and obviously I was having so much fun. I loved it, and I was going in to the game and I was getting really into it, and I loved the idea of the whole progression system, and I loved that idea. At first I was a bit annoyed because it got to a point like halfway through or near the later part of the demo where all of a sudden the difficulty cranked up rather quickly. It was absolutely fine, and then all of a sudden, just literally the next mission, it just cranked up to like 11, and I'm like, what was going on here? And then I was a bit annoyed at first, I'll be honest, because I thought, was there a way to actually replay missions? How do I level up my characters? And, you know, likewise, it was a godsend when I actually found out that you can actually replay the missions. I think there's one of the rooms where you level up your abilities and you can actually go and replay the mission. So I thought, fine, brilliant, yeah, I'm loving this. I can go back in, I can gain experience points, and I'll grind up a bit, get a bit of extra bit of money. Brilliant. Yeah, so I replayed a couple of missions, and I think I gained like one level or something, and I gained like, was it 800? I'll just say gil, because I'm going off the assumption of it's like Final Fantasy. I'll say I gained about 800 gil per the mission. Each mission obviously will take about, 6 to 8 minutes? Something like that on average. I'm presuming that will increase as later you get into the game. But yeah, you finish that mission, and then that was where I started realising a bit of a problem. Because the demo I played, it is a lengthy demo. You know, it says it takes about 2 or 3 hours, and I ended up, okay, I'll be absolutely honest, when it came to like the last couple of missions, or the last mission in the demo, I just went down to casual difficulty, because this is the problem that I kind of had with it, and it started showing a bit of a problem where it started showing a little bit of a grind already. And for the first, like, chapter 1, I thought, for a grind, that's not good. Because I say, I replayed a couple of missions and only gained about one mission, and the missions were still, like, really difficult. So I'm presuming that it requires a lot of, like, buying a lot of equipment. But here's the thing, like, one of the decent pieces of equipment that's somewhat decent, you know, it costs about 1200 gil, and as I say, you're playing about 8. Well, you're having to replay a mission which takes about 8 minutes or so, because you don't get your experience at the end until the end. So you're having to replay these missions like 1 or 2 times just to be able to afford one piece of equipment. And I'm like, you have about 5 or 6 characters over the course of this demo, each one of them needing their own bit of equipment. So either I'm missing something really here, or I'm just thinking, my god, bloody hell, am I gonna have to grind through all these times to get all these pieces of equipment to have somewhat of a chance to beat this next mission on, you know, on normal mode? And I just kind of have a feeling, I thought, is that why people are taking 3 hours to beat it? Because they were doing a grind to get this equipment? I don't want to do that. And this is where I'm now, like, realising it is one of those type of games. And I'm sorry, but when I feel that, I suppose you could say I am one of those people where if there is a good frequent sense of progression, You know, because I'm not saying that there isn't grinds in other games, but there's a lot of like, you get that good sense of feeling of progression straight away. You know, like skills unlocking on weapons or something like that, and I love that. I don't mind a grind every now and then, but when I'm having to like replay an 8-minute mission just to gain like half of one piece of equipment, it kind of makes me feel a bit dubious, I'll be honest. So yeah, I'm a person that I like that sense of progression. I feel like I'm always aiming for something, and if I'm having to do this so early on in even the demo, I just worry about what it's going to be like even further down the line. And yeah, that's where I'm kind of a bit of a worry. Now, this could be me. I could just not be a buff, like a strategy buff. I'm not a strategy buff. I'm not the bestest player. You know, I do like that sense of progression straight away. So I think what it would come down to is when it comes to would I buy, it's like I want to, there's stuff there that I like, but it's going to be a casual pick up and play. I'm going to have to not worry about the story and just enjoy the gameplay itself, because I love the gameplay. I do love the strategy and the gameplay behind it. But I just kind of have a feeling it's going to be one of those games where it's going to be a casual pick up and play every now and then. And it's not something I'm going to want to push to the end for. So I would say if you are really in to your strategy and looking at that in-depth strategy stuff, and you really do not mind a grind, I would say definitely give the demo a try. As for me, personally, I'll be honest, I could probably wait. I can hold off. There is nothing there that screams at me now that I want to go out and buy that game straight away. If there'd have been that good steady progression without that high sense of grinding, I would have thought, yeah, I'm loving this, I'm getting into this. I probably would be really inclined to buy it a lot more early on. But because I've now put it down to that it's going to be just a casual pick up and play every now and then, I think I could probably wait for it, to be honest. So I might actually end up just waiting for it to come down in price. Because I do like it, but yeah, no, I think I can wait about it. But that's just me personally. That's my thoughts from when I was playing the demo. I mean, you know what? If you've played the demo, give it a try. Please give it a try if you were into your strategy. Let us know what you think. Did you really enjoy the game? Did you really get into the strategy? Did it make you want to buy it straight away? Or did it make you want to perhaps give it a miss or wait for a sale? I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments. And yeah. Until then, I will see you on the next one. Laters.
Think you can escape?
Let's get going.
I understand.
Got it.
Right away.
Very well.
Ours now.